Have you ever felt like you're nothing more than an emotional vending machine? People come to you, take what they need, your time, your energy, your peace, and then leave without a second thought? They treat your boundaries like mere suggestions, thinking it's okay to drain you whenever they please. But here's the truth. When do you stop letting them? When do you start valuing yourself enough to say no? We've all been there, giving and giving, trying to make others happy, only to find ourselves emotionally exhausted, questioning why we feel so hollow. It's not because you're weak or incapable. It's because you've allowed these toxic behaviors to slip through the cracks, unnoticed at first, but over time, they erode your spirit. When you're constantly giving without receiving respect, your inner peace begins to slip away bit by bit. The real question is, when will you stop tolerating disrespect disguised as love? Too many of us stay in situations that chip away at our self-worth, convincing ourselves that we're just being too sensitive or overreacting. But no, you deserve respect, kindness, and to be treated with the dignity that every human being deserves. In today's video, we're going to dive deep into 5 behaviors that you should never tolerate from anyone, whether it's your family, friends, or even your romantic partner. These behaviors might seem small at first, but they slowly and steadily chip away at your confidence, your peace, and your emotional well-being. It's time to stop justifying toxic behaviors and start setting firm boundaries. If you've been feeling drained, unappreciated, or even disrespected by the people closest to you, this video is for you. It's time to recognize these red flags and reclaim your space. Let's stop tolerating behaviors that harm us and start creating healthier relationships that nurture our emotional health. So what's the first behavior that we need to address? Let's dive into the first behavior you should never tolerate: constant criticism. The subtle erosion of confidence. There's a particular kind of emotional erosion that doesn't show up all at once. It doesn't explode in a heated argument or a blow-up fight. It seeps. It starts with a single offhand comment, maybe about your outfit, the way you speak, or the choices you make. It feels harmless at first, even like advice or a passing joke. But slowly, the comments increase, and it doesn't just stop at your appearance or your actions. It starts to dig deeper, questioning your thoughts, your dreams, your very essence. The result? Over time, you start to shrink, not because you've changed, but because someone has slowly convinced you that nothing about you is quite right. You begin to second-guess yourself. You start doubting your own ideas before you speak up. You hesitate before expressing your true feelings. All of a sudden, your natural confidence starts to slip away, and you don't even realize when it happened. The hidden danger of constant criticism. Constant criticism isn't just unpleasant, it's a form of psychological warfare. It's a tactic used to break you down slowly and methodically, often disguised as tough love or honest advice. But here's the thing. Constructive criticism is about helping you grow. It's specific, it's actionable, and it's given with care and respect. But constant criticism, it doesn't target what you do, it targets who you are. And that, my friend, is dangerous. People often confuse these two, constructive feedback and constant criticism, but they are worlds apart. The key difference, it is the intention behind it. Constructive feedback is about collaboration and improvement, but constant criticism is about domination. It's about making you feel small, inadequate, and less than you are. Why it's more harmful than you think. For many, especially older adults, this pattern of constant criticism becomes dangerously normalized. You've grown up with it, and you've been conditioned to accept it as part of life. It becomes the norm, and you stop recognizing the emotional damage it's causing. But here's the harsh truth. What feels familiar isn't always healthy. Psychologically, this kind of ongoing criticism activates the brain's threat detection systems. It makes you feel like you're constantly under attack. Studies have shown that repeated negative feedback, especially from those we love or care about, rewires our brains to anticipate rejection, even when none is present. The result? You begin to doubt your own instincts, question your self-worth, and second-guess your decisions. In families, this often takes the form of comparison. Why can't you be more like your brother or sister? In workplaces, it's the supervisor who only notices your flaws, never your accomplishments. In relationships, it's the partner who cares enough to make backhanded remarks, all under the guise of honesty. It might seem like nothing more than small jabs, but these comments have a cumulative effect. Over time, they leave you feeling smaller, less confident, and more unsure of yourself. And the longer you allow it, the more damage it causes. The more you shrink, the harder it becomes to regain that confidence that was once natural to you. From a Stoic perspective, this kind of criticism goes against the very essence of living a virtuous life. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, taught that while we cannot control what others do, we are fully responsible for what we accept and how we respond. To live with dignity means setting clear boundaries around what is acceptable and what is not. And when someone consistently diminishes you, it is up to you to protect your own dignity. So how do you respond when you realize that constant criticism is creeping into your life? First, validate your own experience. The sinking feeling you get when you're around that person isn't weakness. It's your internal compass trying to alert you to danger. The tension you feel in your body, the exhaustion after speaking to them, the hesitation you feel before answering their call, those are not minor annoyances. They are symptoms of emotional violation. For some, especially in long-term family dynamics, it may mean gently redirecting the conversation, clearly communicating your feelings, or even creating some emotional distance. For others, it may mean setting stricter boundaries or, in some cases, cutting ties completely. The most dangerous choice is to continue absorbing the damage because it's easier than naming the truth. But remember this, you were not born with the belief that you're not enough. Someone taught it to you, and like any false lesson, it can and must be unlearned. No one has the right to make you feel less than you are. And the moment you recognize this pattern is the moment you begin to take back your space. Now that we've identified the harm caused by constant criticism, let's move on to the second behavior that you should never tolerate: boundary violations. The disrespect of your space. Let me share a story. I remember a client, an elderly woman, let's call her Margaret. She was a kind soul, always there for her family, offering support without hesitation. But there was one thing that kept happening that made her feel increasingly uncomfortable. Her son, who she trusted with a spare key to her home for emergencies, began to enter without asking, uninvited, whenever he felt like it. At first, it was small things, dropping off groceries or paperwork, but then he started to show up when she wasn't home, waiting for her in the living room or entering while she was asleep. When Margaret finally confronted him, expressing how unsettling it felt, he laughed it off, telling her she was overreacting. "I was just trying to help," he said, dismissing her discomfort. But the next week he did it again. And this time Margaret asked herself, why do I feel guilty for wanting privacy in my own home? This is what boundary violations look like. They are not misunderstandings, they are power plays. And they hurt not just because of the action itself, but because of the message they send. Your comfort, your needs, and your autonomy don't matter. The subtlety of boundary violations. At first, boundary violations might feel like minor offenses, like they're no big deal, but the truth is these are not little issues to be brushed off. They are the subtle erosion of your personal space, your privacy, your emotional safety. In relationships, it can look like a partner who reads your messages without permission or a friend who constantly asks about your private life. At work, it can be a boss who expects you to work overtime without asking, or a colleague who barges into your office without knocking. Boundaries are not walls. They are guidelines we set to protect the most valuable parts of ourselves: our time, our emotions, our space. They are invisible fences that, when crossed, cause a sense of violation that cannot be ignored. When someone repeatedly ignores these boundaries, it's not just disrespectful. It's a signal that they do not value you or your needs. But here's the kicker. Boundary violators don't always do it out of malice. Often they don't know any better. Maybe they grew up in an environment where emotional access was demanded, not earned. They might have learned that love means control, not care. And so they continue to cross your boundaries, thinking they're entitled to your time, your energy, and your space. The manipulative boundary violator. Then there's the more insidious kind of boundary violator, the manipulative kind. These people know exactly what they're doing. They don't kick down the door. They test it. Just a little push here, a nudge there to see what they can get away with. And when you finally speak up, they call you dramatic or selfish, labeling you as the problem. They know how to make you feel guilty for standing up for yourself. It's the coworker who jokes too often about your personal life, the parent who brings up sensitive topics in public, the friend who borrows money and never repays it. These subtle violations might seem insignificant when viewed in isolation, but over time they start to chip away at your sense of self-respect. And before you know it, you start doubting whether your boundaries even matter anymore. The cost of tolerating boundary violations. When you tolerate boundary violations without speaking up, you send the message that your needs are not important. You teach others that your time and energy are theirs to take whenever they feel like it. And while this may seem like a small thing, over time, it becomes a huge issue. The more you allow others to intrude on your boundaries, the more you lose sight of what's yours to protect. From a Stoic perspective, boundaries are not just a way of protecting yourself. They are a necessary part of maintaining your inner peace and emotional health. Epictetus taught that no one has power over your inner world unless you give it to them. By allowing others to repeatedly cross your boundaries, you're giving them your power, your peace, and your well-being. How to set clear boundaries. So what can you do when your boundaries are being violated? First, you need to communicate clearly. Don't make excuses for your needs or apologize for setting limits. If someone crosses a line, calmly and assertively state how their behavior has affected you. I don't feel comfortable when you enter my space without asking. It's that simple. No drama, no guilt. But here's the important part. Boundaries without consequences are not boundaries. They're suggestions. If you set a boundary and someone continues to violate it, it's time for action. This might mean limiting your time with them, having a more serious conversation, or even distancing yourself from the relationship altogether. The power of clarity and consequences. Remember, your boundaries are there to protect you, not to control others. If someone truly values you, they will respect your boundaries and make adjustments. But if they don't, it's time to take a step back and preserve your own peace. The longer you tolerate boundary violations, the harder it becomes to regain control of your own life. Don't allow anyone to convince you that your boundaries are unreasonable or that you're being too sensitive. The truth is, your boundaries are non-negotiable, and anyone who doesn't respect them doesn't deserve your time or energy. Now that we've covered boundary violations, let's dive into the third behavior you should never tolerate: manipulation and gaslighting. The silent erosion of reality. Manipulation and gaslighting are among the most dangerous behaviors because they don't announce themselves. They don't come barging in with loud arguments or overt attacks. Instead, they quietly infiltrate your life, slowly making you question everything you once knew to be true. It starts subtly, a phrase here, a contradiction there, a small inconsistency that doesn't seem significant at first. But over time, these tiny cracks in your perception grow, and you begin to lose touch with your own reality. At first, it might seem like an innocent misunderstanding. They might tell you that something you clearly remember didn't happen the way you remember it. Or they might accuse you of twisting things, telling you that you're too sensitive or overreacting. That didn't happen, they might say, or you're imagining things. These simple words begin to chip away at your trust in yourself, and little by little you start second-guessing your own memory, your feelings, and even your instincts. How gaslighting works. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where someone makes you question your own perception of reality. The goal is to destabilize you, to make you doubt your thoughts, your memories, and even your emotional responses. It's a slow, insidious process that leaves you confused, anxious, and disconnected from your own sense of truth. Here's how it works. The gaslighter will repeatedly deny things that you know are true. They will manipulate the situation to make you feel like you're the one who is crazy, overreacting, or misremembering. It can happen in the smallest of interactions, like when they tell you, "I never said that," or "You're just being paranoid." At first, you might laugh it off, thinking it's no big deal. But when it happens over and over, it starts to feel like you're living in a world where your thoughts and feelings don't make sense anymore. The result? You begin to lose trust in your own mind. You start to question whether you're imagining things or if you really are as irrational as they say. This is the essence of gaslighting. The manipulator is creating an alternate version of reality, one where your experience and perception are invalidated and their version becomes the dominant truth. The emotional toll of gaslighting. The damage caused by gaslighting is not physical, but it's no less harmful. It's a form of emotional abuse that wears you down over time. The more you doubt yourself, the less confident you become in your own perceptions. You start to feel like you're losing control over your thoughts and emotions. You might even begin to apologize for things you never did wrong or accept blame for things that aren't your fault. This can cause anxiety, depression, and a deep sense of confusion. You might feel like you're stuck in a relationship or situation where you're constantly questioning your own sanity. And the longer it goes on, the harder it becomes to regain your sense of self. How to recognize gaslighting. So how do you know if you're being gaslighted? There are a few key signs to look out for. Constant denial. The person continually denies things that you know to be true, even when there's evidence to the contrary. They might tell you, "I never said that," or "you're remembering it wrong," blaming you. They shift the blame onto you, making you feel like you're the one causing the problem. "If you didn't react that way, we wouldn't be in this situation," they might say. Confusion. You start to feel disoriented and unsure of your own memories or feelings. You might constantly question your own judgment. Isolation. The manipulator might try to isolate you from others, making you feel like no one else understands or supports you. These behaviors may seem minor at first, but they are part of a much larger pattern designed to erode your sense of reality and control. The long-term effects of gaslighting can be devastating. Over time, you might start to lose touch with who you really are. Your confidence will erode, and you may begin to feel like you're living in a fog, unable to trust your own judgment. This can have a significant impact on your relationships, your career, and your overall well-being. The most dangerous aspect of gaslighting is that it often happens gradually. The manipulator doesn't show up one day and demand control. Instead, they weave their lies so slowly and subtly that you don't even notice the damage until it's too late. When you realize you're being gaslighted, it's important to take steps to protect yourself. The first thing you should do is to trust your own perception. If you know something is true, don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Write things down to keep track of conversations and events. This will help you stay grounded in reality when the gaslighter tries to distort your memories. Next, you should seek outside support. Talk to friends, family, or a therapist who can help you validate your experience. Sometimes hearing someone else confirm that your feelings are valid can be the wake-up call you need to break free from the gaslighter's grip. Finally, set boundaries with the person who is gaslighting you. Let them know that their behavior is unacceptable and that you will no longer tolerate it. If they continue, it may be time to distance yourself from the relationship entirely. Remember, you deserve to be surrounded by people who support you, not people who make you question your own sanity. Now that we've explored the harmful effects of manipulation and gaslighting, let's move on to the fourth behavior you should never tolerate. Dishonesty that destroys trust. Dishonesty that destroys trust. The silence after the lie. There's a silence that falls the moment you realize someone has lied to you. It's not just the absence of sound, it's the deafening realization that your trust has been broken. It's not the little white lies that sting, it's the calculated, intentional dishonesty that strikes at the very core of your relationship. The moment you catch them in a lie, something inside you shifts. The world, which once seemed so clear and straightforward, suddenly becomes a blur, and you begin to question everything you thought you knew. The truth is, chronic dishonesty is one of the most damaging behaviors because it erodes the very foundation of any relationship. Trust, whether it's a lie about something small or a lie about something significant. Once trust is broken, it's incredibly difficult to rebuild. The forms of dishonesty. Dishonesty can come in many forms, and it's not always about telling outright lies. Sometimes it's about what's not said. It's about withholding important information or offering half-truths that change the course of events without fully acknowledging the truth. There's also the tactic of minimization, where harmful behaviors are downplayed or dismissed. It's the partner who cheats but tells you it wasn't a big deal, or the friend who borrows money and never repays it but shrugs it off as if it doesn't matter. There's also deflection, when the person shifts the conversation away from the issue at hand and redirects it to you. It's a way of avoiding accountability by making you feel like you're the one with the problem. Why are you so upset? They might ask, turning the tables on you, making you feel guilty for being hurt by their dishonesty. But perhaps the most insidious form of dishonesty is betrayal. This is the lie wrapped in kindness, where someone says all the right things but acts in ways that are completely opposite. It's the friend who promises to support you but undermines you behind your back. It's the partner who says, "I love you," but shows you nothing but neglect and deceit. Betrayal disguised as kindness is one of the hardest forms of dishonesty to recognize, because it's often masked as love or care. The psychological cost of lying. The psychological toll of living with someone who is consistently dishonest is profound. It doesn't just affect the relationship, it affects your own sense of self. When you're constantly lied to, you begin to question your own judgment. You start doubting whether you can trust your instincts or your memories. And over time, this creates a deep sense of insecurity that can seep into all areas of your life. You begin to feel like you're not worthy of honesty, that maybe you're too demanding for wanting the truth. You might even start to ignore the red flags, telling yourself, it's not a big deal, everyone lies sometimes. But here's the truth, lying isn't just a bad habit, it's a reflection of someone's character. And their willingness to deceive you shows just how little they value you. The Stoic perspective on dishonesty. From a Stoic perspective, honesty is not just a virtue, it's a necessity for building genuine relationships and living with integrity. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher, taught that the foundation of a virtuous life lies in truthfulness. He believed that without truth, there is no real connection between people. Relationships based on lies are not based on trust. They're based on manipulation, and they are ultimately hollow. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, said that truth is the first lesson of friendship. Without truth, there is no genuine bond, no real connection. When someone lies to you, they are not just deceiving you. They are cutting the cord of connection that ties you together. And when this happens repeatedly, it begins to erode the trust and respect that are essential to any meaningful relationship. So how do you respond when you discover that someone has lied to you, especially when it's a consistent pattern? The first step is to acknowledge the lie for what it is. Don't minimize it or brush it off. Acknowledge that the dishonesty has broken something within the relationship. Trust, once broken, takes a long time to rebuild, and in many cases, it can never be fully repaired. Next, confront the liar, but be clear about your boundaries. Don't just accept their excuses or justifications. Ask for accountability. And make it clear that this behavior is unacceptable. You have every right to demand honesty in your relationships. And if the person continues to lie, despite your confrontation, it's time to take action. The most painful thing you can do is allow someone to lie to you over and over again, especially if they refuse to be honest or show remorse. If the lies continue, no matter how many times you confront them, it might be time to walk away from the relationship. This doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're choosing yourself over the cycle of deceit. You deserve people who value honesty and integrity. You deserve relationships where trust is mutual and respected. Don't settle for less than that. Now that we've covered dishonesty and its destructive effects, let's move on to the fifth and final behavior you should never tolerate. Disrespect disguised as jokes. The hidden hurt behind the laugh. It usually starts with a laugh, a casual remark, a little jab in public that makes your cheeks burn. Maybe you smile awkwardly, hoping the moment will pass quickly. Perhaps you laugh along to avoid confrontation, but deep down, something tightens in your chest. You don't feel seen, understood, or respected. You feel mocked, ridiculed. And when you finally muster the courage to speak up, the person who made the remark throws up their hands and says, "Relax, I was just joking." This is the fifth behavior that no one should ever get away with. Disrespect disguised as humor. It may seem harmless on the surface, but these kinds of remarks can be deeply damaging to your self-esteem and your emotional well-being. The mask of humor. We've all encountered it, the friend, the family member, or the partner who just tells it like it is under the guise of humor. They poke fun at your weight, your choices, your appearance, or your past mistakes, all while claiming that they're just being honest. But here's the catch. True humor doesn't come at the expense of someone else's dignity. These remarks are often disguised as honesty or good-natured teasing. But when the laughter is one-sided, when only one person is laughing and the other is left feeling small, then it's not humor, it's humiliation. The problem is, this kind of disrespect is often disguised so well that it's easy to dismiss. Oh, they didn't mean it like that. It's just their sense of humor. But if the joke always seems to target you and leave you feeling worse about yourself, it's no longer a joke, it's a pattern of disrespect. The weaponization of honesty. In some cases, this behavior escalates into what I like to call weaponized honesty. The person who claims that their harsh words are just truth bombs, designed to help you grow. But the truth is, this isn't honesty, it's cruelty in disguise. They might say, "I'm just being real with you," but what they're really doing is using their honesty to control you, to make you feel inferior, and to diminish your sense of self-worth. This is not the kind of honesty that builds relationships. True honesty, the kind rooted in respect and care, and is never brutal. It is thoughtful, measured, and delivered with kindness. What's being offered in these situations is not clarity, but an attempt at dominance disguised as truth. The emotional impact of disrespectful jokes. When someone disrespects you in the name of humor, it has a subtle yet powerful effect on your psyche. Over time, these comments chip away at your confidence and make you question your own worth. You start to feel like you're the butt of every joke and that your presence is only valued for someone else's amusement. What's worse is when this behavior is repeated. The more you tolerate it, the more you normalize it. And eventually you start to believe that it's okay to be disrespected as long as it's wrapped in a joke. But let me tell you, that's not okay. True love and friendship are built on mutual respect, not on putting others down for sport. If someone truly cares about you, they will never make you feel less than. They will never use your vulnerabilities as fodder for their humor. The Stoic view on respect and humor. From a Stoic perspective, the way we use our words should reflect our highest values. Marcus Aurelius, a famous Stoic philosopher, believed that our words should be like medicine, intended to heal, not to harm. He taught that the purpose of communication is to uplift, not to tear down. In the Stoic worldview, using words as weapons to hurt others is the opposite of virtue. In fact, the Stoics valued self-control and emotional resilience above all else. They believe that it's our responsibility to set a standard for how we treat others and how we allow others to treat us. If someone is using humor to belittle or hurt you, it's your responsibility to set a boundary and call them out on it. You deserve to be treated with dignity, and no one has the right to disrespect you, even if they try to disguise it as a joke. So how do you respond when someone disrespects you with a joke? The first step is to name it. Don't laugh it off or pretend it didn't bother you. Acknowledge that the comment made you feel uncomfortable. You can say something like, "That didn't feel like a joke to me, it felt disrespectful." If the person tries to dismiss your feelings, don't back down. Stand firm in your truth. If they continue to make disrespectful jokes, you need to take action. This might mean walking away from the conversation, limiting your time with them, or even distancing yourself from the relationship entirely. The power of setting boundaries. Setting boundaries is one of the most empowering things you can do for yourself. It's a way of protecting your peace, your dignity, and your emotional well-being. Don't let anyone convince you that their behavior is acceptable just because it's wrapped in humor. If someone disrespects you repeatedly, it's up to you to draw the line and say, "This is not okay." Remember, you are worthy of love and respect, not just when it's convenient for others, but always. And anyone who insists on degrading you under the guise of humor isn't someone who truly cares about you. Now that we've explored these 5 toxic behaviors, the question remains, what will you do next? The key to protecting your peace is recognizing these behaviors for what they are and drawing clear boundaries. Don't allow anyone to disrespect you, manipulate you, or make you feel less than you are. You have the power to reclaim your space, your self-worth, and your emotional health. Take action today. Set one firm boundary, speak up when you're disrespected, and choose to surround yourself with people who value you for who you truly are. It's time to stop tolerating toxic behavior and start living a life that honors your worth. Remember, your peace is non-negotiable. Choose to protect it. Summing it all up, we've explored 5 behaviors that no one, whether it's your partner, boss, or family, should ever get away with. From constant criticism to disrespect disguised as jokes, these behaviors chip away at your confidence, self-worth, and emotional peace. They undermine your ability to live a life of dignity and joy. But the good news is you have the power to stop tolerating these behaviors. Setting clear boundaries, speaking up for yourself, and walking away from relationships that harm you are the first steps toward reclaiming your peace and self-respect. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Remember, your peace is not negotiable. You deserve to be treated with the respect and kindness you give to others. It's important to remember that the way others treat you is a reflection of how much you value yourself. By tolerating disrespect, manipulation, and dishonesty, you're telling others that your well-being doesn't matter. But by standing up for yourself, by drawing those boundaries and demanding respect, you're telling the world that you are worthy of kindness, honesty, and genuine love. It's time to stop justifying toxic behavior. It's time to start living with clarity, purpose, and peace. The path ahead won't always be easy, but it will be worth it. And every step you take towards protecting yourself, valuing yourself, and choosing the right relationships will help you create a life that reflects your true worth. As you move forward, take a moment to reflect. Does this relationship energize you or drain you? Are you being respected and supported, or are you simply being used? It's time to make the choice to protect your peace. Start small. Set one firm boundary. Say no when it's needed and stop justifying harmful behavior. These small acts of self-respect are how you begin to rebuild a life filled with love, peace, and dignity. Thank you for taking the time to watch. If this video resonated with you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your voice and experience matter. Don't forget to share this with someone who might need to hear it. You are not alone in this journey. Closing thoughts. Now that you've learned to recognize these harmful behaviors, the real question is, what will you do next? The answer is simple. Protect your peace and reclaim your life. Click the next video to continue your journey toward emotional freedom.